Oh, social media. Social media has been an integral part of many Western adolescents' lives for decades, with a third of the world's population estimated to have a social media account as of 2023. Social media users were sharing 6.9 billion images on WhatsApp, 1.3 billion images on Instagram, and 350 million images on Facebook every single day. Bros 2023. Despite the relatively recent rise in social media, research suggests that teenagers' online behavior is generally a reflection of their offline behavior. Boyd 2014. For example, if they are popular offline, then they are more likely to be popular online. If they're bullied offline, then they're more likely to be bullied online. Media scholar Dana Boyd, who has spent thousands of hours observing teenagers' online behavior, concluded that teenagers use social media to do what they have always done: establish friendships, distance themselves from parents, flirt, gossip, bully, experiment, and rebel. Boyd, 2014. When asked about their own opinions, about two-thirds of adolescents agree that social media helps to maintain or widen their friendship circle, is a source of recreation, and relaxation, helps to develop their career prospects, can raise awareness of important social issues, can foster a sense of community and belonging, and protects against loneliness at the same time. Half of adolescents also agreed that social media can be a waste of their time, gets in the way of physical or outdoor activities, and interferes with sleep, eating, and other daily routines. Abraham 2020. Of particular concern to parents and researchers, at least, is whether social media use increases the likelihood of depression and anxiety. The double-edged nature of social media reflected in adolescents' attitude is also reflected in the research. Some studies have found a negative association between social media use and mental health. Twang 2020. Some researchers found a positive association. Frederick et al. 2022. And some research has found no association at all. Jensen et al. 2019. Beyond these associations, a key question is whether using social media in a certain way causes poor mental health, such as simply by leaving less time for face-to-face interactions, something we know is a protective buffer against depression. Lee et al. 2019. Or could it be that poor mental health causes people to use social media in certain ways? For example, adolescents with a tendency towards depression might be more likely to seek out negative feedback from others to confirm their own negative self-concept, reinforcing a downward spiral of mood. Hames et al. 2013. Using a clever research design, Silge Steinbeck and his colleagues 2023 were able to tease apart these possibilities by following 800 children in Trondheim, Norway, between the ages of 10 and 16, measuring them every 2 years on anxiety and depression symptoms, as well as their social media use, figure 14.2. By repeatedly testing the same children over time, the researchers were able to determine whether behavior at an earlier point in development predicted behavior at a later time. When they did this over a period of 6 years, they found no evidence supporting either cause and effect possibility. The frequency of posting, liking, and commenting were unrelated to future symptoms of anxiety and depression, and the symptoms of anxiety and depression did not impact future social media use. The results were the same in boys and girls, in a separate study that included over 1 million participants across 72 countries. It was also found that the social media use was unrelated in well-being. Matty and Prejbaisley 2023. From this research, we cannot conclude that there are no negative aspects of social media use. Previous generations of teenagers did not have to worry about permanent record of an embarrassing post they might haunt them later on in life. As a consequence, many legislators are considering the right to be forgotten. For example, the European Union proposed that individuals should be allowed to determine the development of their life in an autonomous way without being perpetually or periodically stigmatized as a consequence of a specific action performed in the past. Montelero 2013. For many of us, it is not hard to think of the specific action for our own adolescence that we are happy to forget. What we can conclude from this research is that we should change the question we ask. The question is not, is social media bad, but who is particularly vulnerable and who benefits from social media and in what way. For example, although the lack of physical cues and contact may represent disadvantage for some individuals with depression, for other people, the social anxiety, for example, online social interactions may be less distressing than face-to-face interactions and preferable as a result. Wilkinson et al. 2020. Researchers must also consider that impacts of social media on mental health might not be the same across development, with certain age groups of sexes being especially sensitive to such impacts. Figure 14.3, Orban and Blakemore 2023, Orban et al. 2022. Key point. Adolescents are aware of the risks and benefits of social media use, and research to date does not suggest that social media use strongly cause adolescent depression and anxiety. Risks and opportunities. Psychologist Jeffrey Arnott, who has spent his career studying the lives of young people and the transition to adulthood, has argued that adolescence presents a number of unique challenges as well as opportunities for well-being. Arnott 2000. Feeling in between life phases, young people no longer see themselves as children or adolescents, but nor do they see themselves as full adults either. With the financial independence and personal responsibility that adults entails, this can create a feeling of camaraderie with other young people, as only they get what it feels like to be this age. But fully identifying neither as an adolescent nor as an adult risks them feeling that they don't really belong anywhere or haven't found their place yet. Feeling that adolescence is an age of possibilities, young people can direct their lives in a number of different directions. This can be exciting and liberating, but knowing that decisions might have some big consequences further down the line can be daunting, and too much choice can be overwhelming. Feeling self-focused, young people are busy looking inwards, exploring their identities in work, love, and worldviews. This can be a period of great personal growth and exploration, but too much self-absorption or not accepting some of the obligations of adulthood risks them becoming detached and alienated from others. Feeling life is unstable. Young people can experience this period of life as a period of great change in education, work, residential status, and social relationships. It is time for the first romantic feelings, first menstrual period, and first awareness that not all families are the same. Living through so many different transitions, both inside and out, can positively inform who you are. However, it can sometimes be difficult to maintain a stable sense of self. Key point, the transition into adulthood presents a set of risks and opportunities for well-being. In a chapter that was explored some of the negative aspects of adolescents' mental health, it is important to conclude with a sense of balance on the issue. Recall the who question asked adolescents to talk about their greatest emotional and behavioral challenges, so it's natural and the responses were negatively biased. Most adolescents, however, report that they feel satisfied, free, and that life is fun, exciting, and full of changes. Some 77% agree with the statement that life will be better than my parents' lives have been. 89% agree that I am confident that eventually I will get what I want out of life. And 83% agree that at this time of my life, still seems like anything is possible. Arnott and Schwab, 2012. Although stressful events increase the chances of negative mental health outcomes, most people who experience stressful events do not develop psychological illness as a result. This goes for events that happen to most people, such as losing valued relationships, and for less common traumatic events, such as experiencing physical abuse. Bonanno et al., 2011. Cohen et al., 2019. The WHO estimates that globally, 1 in 7, 14% of 10 to 19-year-olds experience a mental health condition, such as depression and anxiety. While a significant minority, this means that most adolescents do not have a mental health condition. There are two final points that follow from this. First, the reported incidence of mental health problems is likely to underestimate the true rate, as we have heard from adolescents themselves. They generally worry that the world face harsh judgment or ostracism from their friends and family if they disclosed how they truly feel. Also, the stigma and taboo around mental health deter adolescents from seeking help and encourage them to mask their symptoms. WHO 2022. Second, acknowledging that most adolescents feel satisfied, optimistic, and excited about their future does not invalidate their experience of those in distress or the attempt to alleviate their suffering. Adolescents with mental health conditions are particularly vulnerable to social exclusion, discrimination, educational difficulties, risk-taking, behaviours, physical ill health, and human rights violations because of the stigma or fear of ridicule that prevents adolescents from asking for help. Many adolescents are forced to cope on their own, often using maladaptive strategies such as substance abuse. For those who do reach out, professional help services are often inadequately funded. Globally, about 2% of government health budgets are allocated to mental health spending, with some of the poorest countries spending less than $1 per person per year. UNICEF 2021. As we have seen, adolescents are quite adept in identifying the risks and opportunities they face, and they often have the creativity and optimism to find their own solutions to their problems, if they are given the time and the space to do so, and if they feel their voices are heard. Talking point. Throughout the book, we have seen how our evolutionary past has been a powerful force in shaping our childhood. When it comes to happiness, however, we can't count on any help from the natural selection. It does not care about happiness or misery per se. It works directly on reproduction and survival matters because it's hard to reproduce when you are dead. From a biological point of view, there is no reason why the arc of history should bend towards greater happiness. Indeed, the opposite may be true. The agricultural and industrial revolution might have quite unintentionally and without any individual to blame made us all more miserable. Harari, 2015. Even when there is no mismatch between our lives today and those of our foraging ancestors, there is no guarantee of happiness to assume so world be a naturalistic fallacy, which means just what it says. It is an error to assume that just because something is natural, it is good for us. Cancer is natural in this sense, and it has shared a long enough history with humans that we have developed adaptations for responding to it, such as an immune system that removes cancer cells from our bodies on a regular basis. This one, that no one would conclude that cancer is good for us or that medicines designed to eliminate cancer are bad. The natural environment that constituted 97% of our prehistory regulatory presented children with food scarcity and insecurity, war, disease, infanticide, violence, predation, and cognitive and social deprivation. Frankenhus and Amer, 2022. Throughout this period, it is estimated that women gave birth to on an average of 6 children over their lifetimes, yet population growth was close to zero for thousands of years. Gervin and Davison, 2019. If women were given birth to so many children, why did we not see an explosion in our population? There are several possible answers, but one of the most plausible is that most children died young. What we can learn from this is that the expected environment for childhood could at times be an adverse environment too, one that is not guaranteed to make us healthier, happier, or more satisfied. What about is more recent history? Archaeological evidence suggests that thousands of years ago, children were routinely used in religious sacrifices and buried in the walls of buildings to strengthen their foundations. Offit, 2015. The ancient societies of Greece and Rome, who did much to advance ethics, art, philosophy, and science, also saw no problem in selling children as slaves to domestic work and prostitution, or in using them in collateral for loans. Forsdyke, 2021. Across much of Europe, the killing of an infant who was sick, deformed, one of twins, illegitimate, a girl, or otherwise unwanted, was not only common, but legal until Romans outlawed it in 374 CE. Abladen, 2016. By the late 18th century, children were being used as a cheap and disposable source of labour in mines, factories, and agriculture, ideal employees in industries who could pay them less than an adult as they were less likely to organise unions. Kirby, 2013. Around this time, some enlightened thinkers like Jean-Jacques Rousseau were beginning to argue that children are important in their own right and not merely as a means to an end, although that didn't stand in the way of him putting all 5 of his children in foundling homes so that they would not interfere with his work. In case we think that these days are behind us, around 450 million children today, 1 in 6 of all children, live in areas of high conflict. Save the Children, 2022. And the International Labour Organization estimates that 1.2 million children are trafficked each year, with boys mainly used for forced labour and girls for sexual exploitation. International Labour Organization, 2002. So it's hard to find much support for the supposed golden age of childhood, one in which children are universally happy. Asking the very question, are young people happy, might unduly alleviate the pursuit of pleasure above other emotions. Centuries of philosophical, religious, and literary wisdom suggests that direct pursuit of happiness usually backfires, and that it is best approached by the back door of self-discovery, enlightenment, and the alleviation of suffering. But the fact that our happiness is not a historical or biological inevitability should give extra reason to cherish it as precious commodity, what it does occur, when it does occur, and because childhood can last a lifetime, the happiness of our children has profound effects on the adults they become. Summary: young people report a complex mixture of emotions and attitudes towards themselves and their lives. Family, peers, and school can both protect and harm adolescents' emotional well-being depending on the individual circumstances. Adolescents' well-being is particularly heritable. There are a range of personal assets that can support young people's well-being and act as protective buffer against adversity. Adults can help adolescents by providing more validation of their experiences, and they can reduce the stigma around reporting mental health difficulties by listening without judgment and in confidence. An important factor is predicting well-being is the goodness of fit between the individual characteristics of the children and the demands or expectations of the environment. Adolescents are aware of the risks and benefits of social media use, and research to date does not suggest that social media use strongly causes adolescents depression and anxiety. The transition into adulthood presents a set of risks and opportunities for well-being.